So IGN is at it again. This time, their bad take comes along with Shin Megami Tensei 5. Now, I have some problems with all the reviewers who are reviewing Shin Megami Tensei 5. My biggest issue, before we get to this video and we go ahead and make fun of this and critique it, my biggest issue with people reviewing Shin Megami Tensei 5 is their constant comparison from SMT 5 to Persona 5 Royal. You cannot compare the two. They are two completely different games. If you've never played a Shin Megami Tensei game before and you've only played Persona games, specifically Persona 3, 4, and 5, specifically Persona 5, you shouldn't be comparing the two. Like, you really shouldn't, because Shin Megami Tensei 5 is as closely related to Persona 5 at this point that as, I don't know, an apple to a pepper, right? Like, they might look like they come from the same place. They look like they have the same colors, but they are completely different. So that's my complaint. I mean, I see so many people saying all the time, "Oh, the game mechanics is like a step backwards from Persona 5. Oh, the game is like, you know, it's like it wants to be Persona 5, but not quite. It's not trying to be Persona 5. Go and play a Shin Megami Tensei game and get your head out of your ass." With that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at IGN's take on Shin Megami Tensei 5, and let's make some fun of it.
Shin Megami Tensei 5 feels like the edgier, less sociable younger brother of Persona 5.
And here we go. Shin Megami Tensei series is 35 years old. The Persona series is 25 years old.
Even though Persona began as a spin-off of this series. Both branches of the family share much of their cast of highly customizable demons, like mythological Pokemon you smash together to make even more powerful ones.
He's not wrong on that. He's not wrong. The demons are pretty much like Pokemon. You go and you collect them and then you make them stronger and all that. He's not wrong on that.
They have similar, excellent turn-based combat systems that encourage you to fish for your opponent's weaknesses and make smart use of every resource available.
Okay, the Shin Megami Tensei series has what's called the press turn system. It started with Nocturne. Okay, so Shin Megami Tensei, whenever you hit an opponent with their weakness or with their element or whatever the weakness is, it gives you an extra turn. They put it as like a kind of like a half turn. So those circles at the top that you see, like right somewhere right there, those circles, those are your turns. So if you hit an enemy with a specific element or if you hit them with a weakness, it gives you an extra turn. Now, enemies can have that too. Okay, this is something that is not in the Persona series. Okay, in the Persona series, you hit an enemy, you knock them down, you take their turn away, and then your next character gets to go and so on and so forth until you have them all knocked down, and then you can do an all-out attack. Or you can negotiate or whatever, or whichever one, because Persona 5 brought back the negotiation system. But yeah, they're very different when it comes to the mechanics of combat in that regard.
To you. What's missing from the Persona formula here is a lot of its heart, but Shin Megami Tensei 5 still rises to succeed in most other ways.
Oh, stop. A lot of its heart. Stop. Okay. Tell me you've never played a Shin Megami Tensei game without telling me you've never played a Shin Megami Tensei game. The beautiful thing about Shin Megami Tensei versus Persona is the fact that it's kind of like you choose your own adventure in a way. Persona is a very straightforward story. It has one story with maybe 2 or 3 different endings, but it's really the bad ending, the good ending, and the true ending in the Persona series. That started actually, I think, with Persona 4. I don't think Persona 3 really did that. Persona 4 has the bad ending, the good ending, and the true ending. Persona 5 carried along that same gameplay aspect. When you're talking about like the heart of Persona, the heart of Persona comes in the cast of the characters, where the cast in Shin Megami Tensei games, usually the cast, they're more along the lines of side characters that influence your gameplay and influence your ending. In Shin Megami Tensei games, you have a chaotic ending, a good ending, a neutral ending. Sometimes you'll have like a demon ending. Sometimes you'll have an angelic ending. Sometimes you'll have not really like a true ending, but some consider it a true ending. Like for example, in Shin Megami Tensei Devil Survivor 2, there was what you consider to be like the true ending, which I'm not going to spoil that for you, but it's not really particularly a true ending because technically all the endings are true endings except for except for Shin Megami Tensei 4. That was the only one that actually had a continuation of the game, where the neutral ending was the true ending because Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, which was the continuation of Shin Megami Tensei 4, that one, because it continued off of the neutral ending, that made the neutral ending canon, where most of the time there is no canon ending, meaning there is no true ending in these games, because your ending is your ending, right? So like you can that adds to the replay value as well, because then you go ahead and you get to make different decisions that influence your gameplay, that influence your endings. So the lack of heart in this, no, if anything, there's more heart in this because your decisions influence your gameplay. That wasn't even the start of the review? Okay. Why does it sound like you're playing Power Ranger music?
The bulk of the action takes place across 4 expansive open areas of the Netherworld, though Atlas is only allowing us to show gameplay from the first of them for now.
Yeah, it's called an embargo.
Each has a very distinct vibe, diverging from a central theme of surreal techno-religious weirdness. While you'll fight lots of intense battles, these locales also encourage exploration and even some tricky platforming to find all of the hidden memon. These little red dudes who give you a currency you can use for miraculous bonuses to your whole party or to customize the protagonist. And
okay, this is how you know they've never played a Shin Megami Tensei game before. This is how you know. Because of the fact that they're not even making a comparison to any of the other Shin Megami Tensei games. The fact that there's exploration and platforming is a massive improvement from prior Shin Megami Tensei games. Most Shin Megami Tensei games are relegated to first-person perspective dungeon crawling, where you have an overworld map and you just move your cursor on the overworld map until you get to whatever destination that you're going for, and then you enter those specific areas. Where like Nocturne got away from the first person perspective and went to a third person perspective for dungeon crawling, but it still had that overworld map that didn't really have much for exploration. The exploration was relegated to the dungeon crawling aspects of it, but again, it still wasn't the same. Like you didn't have platforming or nothing like that. It was you had puzzles that you might have to solve, but having platforming and breaking objects on the world and stuff like that's a good improvement. But again, tell me you've never played a Shin Megami Tensei game without telling me you never played a Shin Megami Tensei game.
Customization is the main pillar of SMT5. Since there are no human party members who stay with you for the whole adventure, you'll build a rotating team of 3 demons at a time who can all have their own strengths, weaknesses, and special tricks. Fusing 2 or more demons into stronger ones is central to your progression, but you can also hoard items called grimoires that let you continue powering up a couple specific demons you want to keep with you for the long haul.
I'm glad that I'm glad they are going into specific details regarding, the whole demon aspect of it, because that is an integral part of Shin Megami Tensei, whether it's Persona or not. It's such a big deal when it comes to the demons that, I mean, it makes it difficult to play the game without having to fuse demons and stuff like that. Can it be done? Yes, but that doesn't mean that you should. I mean, like it takes away from the fun. The whole fun of part of the fun of Shin Megami Tensei is collecting all the demons, fusing them for new demons, and powering them up and making overpowered demons that just wreck everything.
Which I really appreciated.
I love Pixie. Like the whole Pixie line. So you got Pixie, Huapo, High Pixie, and then sometimes they evolve from there into other things like Queen Mab, in Nocturne, Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne. high pixie, like if you keep the same high pixie, or you keep the same pixie that you get the first one, and it changes into high pixie, and then you keep it, you keep the demon line going. So meaning if you fuse that high pixie into another demon, as long as you keep that fusion line going, eventually at level 80, I think it turns into Queen Mab.
Things really get interesting when you factor in the essence system, though, which lets you teach skills from a different demon to an existing one, and even inherit their elemental resistances and weaknesses. Between fusion, miracles, and essences, it's possible to create some absurdly powerful and specialized teams that can take on almost any challenge.
Yeah, and see, I think that's actually grabbed from. I don't remember if they had it in Shin Megami Tensei 4 or not. It's been a while since I played that. But Shin Megami Tensei Liberation, which is a mobile game, that actually really embodies the Shin Megami Tensei series. If you haven't played DX2 Liberation, which is Shin Megami Tensei DX2 Liberation, just a long name, they have essence and stuff like that in that game. It's a really, really well put together mobile game that not a lot of people are playing, which is unfortunate because it's a very good Shin Megami Tensei game. The only thing for me is it's a gacha game, so you spend money and all that crap. So I don't approve, but either way, like at least free to play, it's still a good game to play.
The way these systems interact isn't spelled out especially well, but I really enjoyed the gradual path to mastering them myself through trial and error. An experimental mindset is a huge plus in this netherworld, and mastery is basically a necessity unless you want to play on one of the easier difficulties. Shin Megami Tensei has a reputation for being a brutally difficult series, and I was able.
Yes, it does. So those of you who have only played the Persona games, you're in for a world of hurt. Persona games in general have become progressively easier as time goes on. Persona 1 being the first game in the series it felt like a Shin Megami Tensei game because Persona 1, 2, and to a lesser extent 3 are more or less Shin Megami Tensei games. Persona 3 kind of changed things and was the first of the Personas that we know today, where the combat changed, you have the social aspects in the game, all of that. So, but the reason why Persona 3, in my opinion, I consider still Shin Megami Tensei is because the themes that's in that game, and on top of the themes being a darker game than Persona 4 and 5, Persona 3 is also probably one of the hardest ones out of the newer style Persona games. So Persona 3, 4, and 5, Persona 3 being the hardest one to play. Persona 2 is still the hardest one, though, and probably the most rewarding, but it is a duology, and it is kind of difficult to get your hands on. I'm really hoping that we get like some sort of HD remaster or remake for those, but I digress.
Able to see why. Just using the strongest demons I came across naturally, I often got chewed up and spit out pretty quickly, especially against certain bosses and in the last quarter of the story. But that's only until I realized that the real challenge was in creating the perfect team for each area, and sometimes even each fight. All of the tools are there, and if you know how to use them, you can blow right past enemies that once seemed unbeatable.
Yes. Matador, anyone? Those of you guys who played Nocturne would know. Just saying.
But there is no mercy to be found if you don't, so going in with the right mindset is a must.
You heard that talk about it being safer to go home in groups, right?
Okay, really quick. Do not play this game as if you're playing a Persona game. You will get destroyed. Okay? Absolutely destroyed. When you can't go into a Shin Megami Tensei game thinking it's Persona and then be like, why did my party just get wrecked? I'm just telling you right now. Also, this whole why can't we be friends? I know where this is going. I know where this is going. There are no social links and no social things in Shin Megami Tensei games. That is a Persona thing. So if he starts complaining about this, or I don't know if it's a he or she, if they start complaining about this, just saying.
You should walk with us.
Where SMT5 consistently fell short for me as a massive Persona fan, though, was the writing. It takes upwards of 20 hours to find any personal motivation beyond.
Okay, so they're complaining about the writing. That's a fair criticism. In most Shin Megami Tensei games, the story doesn't really pick up right away. It's kind of a slow burn, slower than Persona is. And that's because it's not a heavily story driven game like Persona. That's not to say that there isn't a heavy story in Shin Megami Tensei games, because there are, but it's more so along the lines of, like I said, you have an overworld story, and as you play, it leads up to your own specific ending. Most of the time, most Shin Megami Tensei games are the world's ending, specifically Tokyo. Demons are coming abound, and you have to, a lot of times, side with the demons, side with the humans, side with neither party, come to like your own conclusion. I mean, that's typically how the stories go, but they all tell a different kind of story in that regard.
Beyond survival and figuring out what's going on, in contrast to Persona 5, which makes things personal right away. The companion characters are also very underdeveloped. You don't get to spend enough time with most of them for one thing, since they don't usually join you in battle. You run into them for a few minutes during cutscenes after many hours of adventuring, and none of them seem to have interesting backstories or even much of a character arc.
And that's why you can't compare this to Persona. The side characters in Shin Megami Tensei are there to kind of act as your angel and devil on your shoulder. Usually there's three characters, or three side characters in Shin Megami Tensei games. You have your good character, you have your neutral character, and you have your chaotic character. Those characters will influence your path that you go on and influence and change your ending. Okay, that's why they're there. They're not there to add any sort of depth to these characters. They're not there to enhance the story. These characters, their backstories are not important. They're there to bicker amongst your shoulders, acting as your angel, your chaotic side, and then behind you, your neutral side. Okay, that's what they're for. They're not there to build social links. They're not there to join a track team, nothing like that. And that's where this guy, girl, person, I mean, no disrespect, I really don't know. So that's where this person is making their mistake. And they said that, them being a massive Persona fan. And listen, I'm a massive Persona fan too. I am. I love the Persona series. And I love Shin Megami Tensei. But knowing these games, come on.
They exist mostly as decoration on a story that cares much more about big concepts than people. The main story is definitely interesting, at least, and not just another rehash of God versus Satan for control of humanity's destiny. While I won't spoil any.
Spoilers, it probably is, because that's what almost every Shin Megami Tensei game is. Even Digital Devil Saga, Devil Survivor. Although they have their own types of stories, Digital Devil Saga not so much as Angel and Demons. That's a completely different story. It's actually a very, very good story, and I really want them to remake Digital Devil Saga. But anyways, getting sidetracked here. But that's usually how Shin Megami Tensei games go, is the whole angels and demons thing, but not entirely. It's usually humans versus demons, and in a lot of cases, the angels are also considered demons. So it's humanity versus demons, and then you have God, or whatever, whatever you want to call it. You have God who comes in, and then you have to make your decision, and then they'll grant your wish. That's usually how Shin Megami Tensei games go. Hence why you have the side characters as they are. And yeah, as far as having like a big streamlined story like Persona, it's not here. You have an overarching story, that's what I said, and that's what they mentioned.
The three possible endings are a bit more nuanced than that. Although your decisions right up to the moment that you lock into one path don't seem to affect them at all. And things become pretty convoluted at the very end. It introduces an entirely new metaphysical concept through an expository dialogue dump at basically the last possible moment.
just like every Persona game. That's legitimately, and you're saying you're a Persona fan. That's legitimately every Persona game. Every one. Like, to a T. That's not even like a Shin Megami Tensei trope. That's even a Persona trope. Like Persona 5, you get to the last act and all of a sudden it's completely like just haywire. If you pick the path of the true ending in Persona 5, it just goes off the rails and just becomes some sort of weird, like you said, metaphysical, supernatural thing that just like it's beyond everything that went up to that point. And then you have Persona 4, where Persona 4's true ending, again, it's just random out of the blue, almost like they just decided just to throw it in there. It's not even like anything that really alluded up to it, but then all of a sudden in Persona 4 they're like, oh yeah, you know what, we're gonna make it so the true ending loops all the way back to the very first character that you meet, which is a gas attendant that really has nothing to do with the story, but you know what, we're just gonna go ahead and write it in and just go with it. Every Persona game does this. Every Shin Megami Tensei game does this. It's not anything different. So I don't see why that's a complaint. If you're a massive Persona fan, you should feel right at home there.
Which seems meant to recontextualize the whole situation, but then doesn't really explain how it works.
What did I just say? What did I just say? I just said Persona 4 did that exact same thing. Persona 5 does that exact same thing. Where, you know, you go ahead and you save everybody in the jails, and then when you bust them out, everything seems fine, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, everybody just starts fading away or just like turning into demons or shadows. I'm sorry, it's shadows in Persona. And like this big thing comes out, and all of a sudden you're now climbing a thing up to heaven to kill like God or whatever. Like you can't complain about this in Shin Megami Tensei, but not complain about it in Persona when it's legitimately in the Persona games. Like I said, Persona 4 is the perfect example of just them like writing in like, oh, you know what? We should write in a true ending. How should we do this? Oh, I know. Let's just loop it back to the first gas attendant just because we feel like it. You know, we'll just shoehorn it in there, not really explain anything, and just write a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo that really doesn't make any sense.
Or even what exactly happened with it after the final battle, so this just left the last hour or so feeling like a somewhat cold, confusing conclusion to an epic 80-hour undertaking.
Persona 3, Persona 4, Persona 5. Actually, Persona 3 didn't even do it. If I really think about it, Persona 3 didn't have that. Persona 3 went all the way through everything, and they introduced the concept of Nyx, the final boss, relatively early on in Persona 3. So the culprits here would be Persona 4 and 5, then Persona 4 Golden, then Persona 5 Royal. So yeah, your complaints, you got to complain about Persona 5 in that regard too, buddy.
At least the art throughout is great. It's every bit as visually stylish as any other Atlas game, and
They're not complaining about it. Okay.
Design of the main character.
Okay.
The demons, both new and familiar to series veterans, look and sound awesome and have some fantastic unique attack animations. The music is pretty good too, though it isn't even in the same league as Persona 5.
Stop! Persona 5 is not even the best soundtrack in the Persona series. Stop embarrassing yourself. Stop it. Persona 3 soundtrack is the best. You can't even fight me on that. Persona 3 is the best, then Persona 5 soundtrack. Don't even. Okay? Lotus Juice carried Persona 3 soundtrack. So don't even. Like, I love Lyn, I love the soundtrack of Persona 5, but Persona 3 soundtrack just kills it. Absolutely. And come on. Shin Megami Tensei soundtrack has always been good.
I have to say.
Oh, here we go. Verdict. Okay.
With extremely deep and satisfying party customization, excellent combat, and challenging enemies, Shin Megami Tensei 5 never left me feeling bored or burned out. Exploration and platforming sections lend some much needed variety when you're fighting so many similar battles in a row.
And is a big improvement on the Shin Megami Tensei series. But go on. I mean, you forgot to mention that. But, I mean, again, you probably haven't played any of the Shin Megami Tensei games. Go on.
I just couldn't shake the feeling that this was Persona without the heart.
Stop! Oh my god! Stop saying Persona without the heart. Oh my god. Go and play Shin Megami Tensei. Please, for the love of God. Go play Nocturne, which just got an HD remaster. Go play Nocturne. Go play Shin Megami Tensei 4. Go play Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse. Go play Devil Survivor. Go play... God, any of them. Any of them. Just stop. They're different games.
Without the
Different games, different development teams, different story writers. Stop.
unforgettable companion characters, the potent personal story, the incredible soundtrack, and the jaw-dropping twists and turns. Still, if you're looking for a meaty JRPG to sink your teeth into, Shin Megami Tensei 5 has heaping portions.
Okay, you gave it an 8.
For more
Okay.
JRPGs, check out our reviews of Astria
I will
and
pass.
Tales of Arise.
I will pass on your
For
reviews on
everything
those.
else, keep it right here on IGN.
I will not keep it right here on IGN. Oh my god. Can you, again, tell me you've never played a Shin Megami Tensei game without telling me you never played a Shin Megami Tensei game? This review is really bad. Oh my god. Look. You're entitled to your own opinions of things, right? Like, I'm not criticizing them for that. You're entitled to it. All right? That's your reviewer. That's fine. But to make a comparison, if you want to compare to the previous game in the series, you don't compare to Persona, specifically Persona 5 Royal or Persona 5 just in general. It is not in the same series anymore. Persona is no longer Shin Megami Tensei and hasn't been since Persona 4. Okay, just because Persona 4 had the Shin Megami Tensei title in it, that doesn't make it a Shin Megami Tensei game. If I remember correctly, the only reason why they put the Shin Megami Tensei title on Persona 4 was because Shin Megami Tensei at the time had a higher or a better reputation than Persona did, because Persona still wasn't as big as it is now. Persona became big with Persona 4 because of Persona 4. And then Persona 5 just blew it out of the water because Persona 5 is the horror of the series and they put it in everything. So, look, go do yourself a favor. Whoever this was, I don't know who did this review. I don't know. They said at the beginning. I'm not going to go back and check. But whoever, you know what? I will go back and check. Leanna Hafer. Okay, listen, Leanna Hafer. Do yourself a favor. Go play Shin Megami Tensei series, any of them. Not Persona, because Persona is not Shin Megami Tensei. Just because it's a spin-off doesn't mean that it is in the series anymore. It is no longer in the Shin Megami Tensei series. Go play Nocturne. That is a good example of what Shin Megami Tensei is. Go play Shin Megami Tensei 4, which is a even better example of what Shin Megami Tensei is, because they are games that have improved on one another. Go play those games and then compare this to those games, because that is a proper comparison, because then you can compare how the series has evolved, what improvements they made, what things they didn't change that they should have changed, or what things that they changed for the worse. You can't compare Persona. It is a vastly different monster on its own. Anyways, guys, let me know what your thoughts and opinions are down below in the comment section. I appreciate you watching. Everybody hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you guys are new. Every thumbs up that you give me is a thumbs down for the IGN trailer, which currently sits at 14,000 dislikes and 1.1 thousand likes out of 113,000 views. So with that, I'll see you guys next time. Everybody, happy gaming.